If you don't know these 7 styling hacks, you are most likely styling your short hair all wrong. If you create too much volume on the top, you can actually make the area around the temples collapse and pull your face down. If you create too much volume on the sides, you can accentuate bigger cheeks and a fuller face. And if you don't style the back correctly, you can draw the eye down the shape and drag the whole style down, making it look frumpy and heavy. Now I'm going to show you 7 styling techniques that will fix all of these problems, no worries. And they can make any short hairstyle look 10 times more flattering on you. Just a heads up, these techniques will work on any short hairstyle. You're not gonna wanna miss them. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a model, Charlene, that came to the salon and we did her hair. Now, I cut her hair, and then after I cut her hair, we styled these 2 photos. So it's the exact same haircut. The only difference is that I styled this one so that you could see what happens if you don't implement the specific techniques that I'm gonna be teaching you today. And these are the most common problems and mistakes that I see people make when they're styling short hair. Okay, now the first technique is ensuring that you're not only using the correct product, but you're using the product correctly. That means that you're applying it in the right places, in the right way. So I like to always start with the heat protectant. Even though your hair is short, it's still very important that we do protect it from any sort of heat styling that you're gonna do in the future. I'm gonna use the Color Fanatic, and I'm just gonna spray this on. And your hair is a little bit dry right now, so I'm actually gonna wet it down. Basically like damp, towel blotted, okay? But if it's too wet, like if it's dripping wet, then what you'll actually find is it just dilutes the product, and you end up using more to try to get the result, right? So get a shower, towel blot it, comb through it, make sure that it's like not dripping. Now, the heat protectant, normally I would say try to keep it on the mid shaft to the ends, but when you're dealing with short styles, it's okay if you get a little bit on the roots. It's not gonna be that damaging to the amount of volume that you get, especially if you utilize the techniques that we talk about during this video. So you spray that on damp hair so that you make sure that you get equal distribution. Then I like to use a volumizer. Now, even if you've got thick hair, I actually say a volumizer is crucial because you're not just trying to use it to get big hair. What we want is we want control to get volume where we want volume. And that same control also minimizes volume where we don't want volume. So I'm gonna use a little bit of Stay High Mousse. This is pretty strong, so you're not gonna need to use a lot of this. For you, and especially like on pixies or short styles, actually right around the front is gonna be pretty important because we want control out of that front. But I want control out of it because I want you to be able to manipulate your bangs, that bang area, however you want. And if you don't do them the correct way, style them the correct way, they won't do whatever you want, they'll do what they want. But if you don't give them a little bit of foundation before you do that through product, then they still, even if you do it right, they'll still like end up usually like laying flat and not really, yeah. So your hair will do what you want it to do versus simply doing what it wants to do. Now that is a fair amount, okay, but it's not too much. You could probably get away with using a little bit more. If your hair was medium texture or fine, then I would even use a little bit more. So I usually start by applying this to the back of the top of the head in the crown area because that's where most of your hair is. Then I'll move into working it through the front on the top in the bang section. And then what I have left over on my hands, I'll work actually through the sides. Now that's to minimize the amount that we put on the sides because what you're gonna learn here in some of these next techniques is that you wanna be able to control the amount of volume you get on the sides because it's gonna be very important to the overall look. So we don't need as much product there to create volume. We're gonna get volume whether we have the product or not. The next technique is to either use a brush or you can use your hands, and this is during the drying process, just getting your hair dry. I'm gonna use what we call a volumizer brush. If you've been around the channel, you know I love these things. They help to get the hair up off the scalp and it gives it a good amount of volume and control. But you can use your hands as well. And the process that we're doing is actually called wrapping the hair. Even where you're literally just doing this and you're using your head shape to actually smooth your hair out and wrap it. Going this way, going back and forth, you're encouraging a little bit of root lift because you're gonna take it this direction. So if I'm going this way, I'm getting some of those roots already going the opposite direction. They're gonna give me a little bit of root lift, encourage a little bit of volume. But the main goal for me on yours is to smooth your hair out more than anything else. So again, we're gonna use your favorite little blow dryer.
And I got your blower.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Lifen? Mm-hmm. It's great, right?
Oh, I love it. It's like 3 or 4 minutes. I'm dry.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan. This is something that we do all the time. And once you start getting used to drying your hair in this process, you'll find that you get a lot more control out of how your hair actually styles after you finish getting it dry. Okay, the next one is a huge tip. This technique is how we appropriately style the bangs. Show me what you do right now. You use a round brush in your bangs, right?
So I will do this.
Okay, and then?
I'm gonna roll there, and then I'll just pull it.
Okay. Getting volume in the bang area, and not just volume, but control in the bang area, meaning that you get your bangs to actually do what you want them to do, is one of the hardest things I think people come up against. But it's actually one of the easiest things to do when you know the right techniques. What I want you to do is dry them like you're gonna wear a very heavy, non-directional bang, straight down into your face, parting it down the center almost, if you will. So it's even on both sides, basically, right? Down with a little bit of bend, totally forward. And so you're gonna wanna go this way with it, okay? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all of this, I'm gonna put this in your hair like this. And you do have a little bit of a growth pattern, like yours does grow this way a little bit. So I'm gonna slightly bring it even towards me this way.
Okay.
Now you're not gonna necessarily wear your bangs like this, but you're gonna dry it in this fashion. And the reason for this is because it's what we call non-directional. It means that we're not really trying to get your hair to go one specific way. We're just giving it the correct amount of bend and making it kind of neutral, which is going to allow us to be able to use our hands after we get it dry to style it to the left, to style it to the right, to style it to the down, really however you wanna style it. But using this process is gonna change everything for both the amount of volume you get in your bangs, but also the amount of control you get in your bangs, because volume equals control to an extent. We'll talk more about that in a sec. And my actual favorite is the very last one, not because it's at the end of the video, which I know everybody always does, but it's actually because it's just my favorite technique that nobody talks about. It's amazing. So skip forward, go check it out, but don't miss that one. Also, if you're getting value out of this, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button because it actually matters. And more importantly, if you've got a short hair friend or somebody that is thinking about going short, share this with them because you will then become like their savior. You'll be like a hero because this is gonna make their life so much easier. So if you're getting value, share it. It helps everybody out. Appreciate it. Let's get back into the next technique. Okay, the next technique is creating the correct amount of volume on top. One of the things I see and hear behind the chair all the time is that people want to try to create more volume on top. And usually what they say is, I want the top shorter because it's lying flat. So what can happen is people will go, they'll get that nice and short and get this big, like a lot of bend, they'll get a bunch of volume right up here, right? And then they go through and they round brush all this stuff too, and it gets this little dip right here. So we want volume here, but if we're gonna get volume there, we also need to make sure that we get volume right in this temple area. But in reality, it's not necessarily that the top needs to go shorter to create volume. It may be that you're creating too much volume on the top and you're creating this little indent around the temples, making the sides look even bigger and actually making the top look flatter because the sides are so bigger, because this indent makes the top actually look flatter. Creating the right amount of volume is important. We want volume, but more importantly, we want to create volume by removing volume. So we want to take some volume out of the sides, which we'll talk about in just a second, but we also want to create enough volume around the temple area to really actually get the volume where we want to get the volume. And that actually will allow us to create less volume on top and still look like we actually have the right amount of volume on top. The next technique is to ensure that we're adding the correct amount of volume on the sides. Right around the ears here, I'm not trying to get volume in that. That's gonna have more than enough volume that we'll ever need by itself. But what I am gonna try to do is get volume right in this section right here above that. And I'm gonna focus the volume there because I actually wanna create more lift at the roots there to make sure that it holds that shape so that this stuff gets the right amount of volume and you get the right amount of volume in there and it doesn't end up actually feeling like it collapses on top and gets really full on the side. Many times I see people adding way too much volume on the sides, trying to kind of approach it the same way they approach the top and everywhere else. And all of a sudden it makes the sides look really wide and full. And it again will make that top look like it's actually flatter than it is. And ultimately make your face and your cheeks just look wider. We want to accentuate cheekbone structure. And to do that, we actually create a little bit less volume on the sides, more volume around the temples, and that will create the illusion that there's the appropriate amount of volume on top. So all I need out of this side is just to either get this to come back off your face, like that, or to have some pieces that kind of come forward or whatever. Maybe it even lands like that, right? But I don't need any more volume through there. So I'll get in there and actually add round brush right there. So like now when we shake it out a little bit, we're getting some volume up in this area, right? Up through here, okay? This doesn't feel as though it's so pronounced like a bowl right there, and then this doesn't feel like it's just goes, dips in, and then just all your volume right there. It's more proportional, right? If you focus on getting volume in here, right, and if you're gonna enhance it through there, in this area, and not enhancing it through here, it's automatically going to lay in, which is gonna make this look like there's more volume. And now this doesn't feel as flat, and I haven't given this a lot of volume on purpose, because we don't want that to be really, really tall, right? But it doesn't feel as flat now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, these next 3 techniques are all done after the hair is basically dried, meaning that you've round brushed it, you've got the correct amount of bend and shape in it, and now we're just kind of finishing off the style. But this is, to me, where the real magic kind of happens. Let's talk about hairsprays versus waxes. If you really want a lot of texture and movement and definition in the style, you're gonna need to use something like a wax to achieve that. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. And really, when most people look at a pixie style or a short style in a magazine and they see something that they really, really like, it's not just the length of that hair. More often than not, it's the movement and the texture that that shape has. And 90% of the time, that's created by the product and the finish, the way that they're actually styling that hair. That product, more often than not, is something like a wax to create that. So the key with using a wax is both how you use it, meaning the actual way you apply it, but more importantly, which wax you use. Now I've got a couple of my favorites. I just found this new one that I absolutely love. I'll make sure to link that in the description. But you're looking for one that basically says on the container, matte finish, low shine, and maximum hold, or a lot of hold. Anything with high shine will have a tendency to many times make it actually greasy, and that can actually weigh your hair flatter. Sumo Tech. Okay. So you're gonna use about that much. Okay. So it's pretty stiff, it feels.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put this in your hair. You're gonna take your rings off before you do it. Okay. You put it in your palms, and you're really gonna work through your hands. You're gonna warm it up. Okay. Then I'm gonna start in the back because that's where most of your hair is, and I am just gonna mess your hair up. Once I've got all that worked through, I'm just gonna bring it back off your face, and then I'm just gonna pull forward what I want down, right? So I'm just gonna go, okay, comes off your face, and now we're gonna want this to kind of come to this side. Okay. So, what of this stuff do I actually want down? How much of this stuff do I want to cover the ears? Do I want this to come all the way forward and down, or do I want some of this to brush back off your ears and lay down? But you see, I'm just kind of like manipulating it into place with my fingers. Now again, I'll add the one in the description that I really like because there's so many out there, they're hard to find. I just found this one, huge fan of it. Definitely I'll make sure that you can find it easy. Okay, this next technique, if you do this wrong, and I see it done wrong all the time, it changes the entire shape of your style. More often than not, when people see you, they don't see you like this. They see some form of a profile of you. And that means that the profile, the way the profile looks, is super important. And if you don't do this correctly, it's gonna throw the profile of your shape off completely. I'm gonna just take my hands at this point, and I'm just going to push this forward, okay? So this comes back, and then I'm just gonna push this forward. Doing that makes the hugest difference. It brings the eye up the shape, it makes the overall shape look like it's got more volume from the profile up in the crown area. It adds a little bit more accentuation to your jawbone structure and cheekbone structure, creating a more lifted appearance. It does far more than the 3 seconds that it takes to do it. The benefit is huge. Okay, and the last technique, now granted, this is a little bit more of a cutting modification, so this is something that you're going to need to explain to your stylist. However, this is another one of those things that makes a massive difference that I really don't see people doing, and they should be doing it. And that is what we at our salon refer to as the M hairline. But if you look at your hairline, if you pull your hair back in a ponytail or pull it up off of your neck, the probability is high that it kind of looks like a little bit of an M. It's a very normal and natural way for a hairline to look. And so actually cutting your nape or cutting that line to follow more of that natural growth pattern or that natural look is going to go a long way into both making your hair grow out better. It's gonna make your neck look a little bit longer. It's gonna make it look a little bit leaner, and it's gonna be more flattering as a whole. So you could easily just explain to your stylist, hey, when we cut the nape shorter, can we kind of follow my hairline instead of cutting it straight across in the back? Can we make it look a little bit more like my natural hairline? I personally think this is a really nice touch, and it's one of those things that it's not massive, but it's one of those little things that adds up. It's the reason that people look at your hair and go, oh my God, I love your hairstyle. And they don't know what it is about it that they love. And it's these little types of things, these little nuances that to me just kind of make the whole change. So those are the 7 styling techniques that you must know if your hair is going to be short so that you can get a much more youthful and a much more flattering feel and a much more flattering shape. But if you liked this video, you're probably going to love this. You're not probably going to love it. You're going to love this video. So why don't you head over there and I'll see you over there. Thanks for hanging out, and let me know in the comments if you learned anything. I can't wait to hear about it. So let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in that video.